Hi everyone, today's topic is writing expressions with variables. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything that we cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you already got it. Just be careful, make sure you don't fast forward too much that you end up missing out on something important. So we will get started with how to write expressions with variables. What we mean by that topic is you're going to be given a sentence and you have to basically translate it into a mathematical sentence. In order to do that well, you're going to need to know the common addition phrases, subtraction phrases, multiplication phrases, and division phrases, and what that looks like when you write it down as a mathematical sentence. So for addition phrases, the most common ones are using the words sum, total, and more than. So here are some examples. If a sentence says the sum of 3 and 4, you could write it down mathematically as 3 plus 4 or 4 plus 3, because with addition, the order doesn't really matter. 3 plus 4 and 4 plus 3 will still get you the same answer. But remember, the key word is sum of. Total will also give you an addition. So total of 10 and 9 would be written 10 plus 9 or 9 plus 10 because order doesn't matter. I could also say 7 more than 6, which would translate to 7 plus 6 or 6 plus 7. For subtraction, however, we have different phrases and order does matter. So for example, if I say the difference between 9 and 2, that would have to mean 9 minus 2, not 2 minus 9. Those will give you different answers. 18 minus 7 will be obviously 18 minus 7, not 7 minus 18. And here's a tricky one. 5 less than 22. Usually people see less than and they think it's the less than or greater than sign, but here they're saying you're taking 5 away from 22. 5 less than 22. So you're doing 22 minus 5. 5 less than 22 would be 17. So that one I would probably put a star or highlight in my notes because that one really tends to trick people. And so remember, subtraction phrases, order does matter. Make sure you have the addition and subtraction phrases and how to write their expressions down in your notebook before moving on to multiplication and division. Okay, so for multiplication and division, multiplication, most common phrases use product of. So if I say the product of 4 and 5, it's really 4 times 5 that you can write down, or 5 times 4, because multiplication, like addition, order doesn't matter. 4 times 5 is still 20, 5 times 4 is still 20. When dealing with fractions, though, they're written a little differently. So since fractions show you part out of a whole, you're going to see the phrase or the word of, and it's going to mean the same thing as multiplication. So half of 4 will be the same as 1/2 multiplied by 4, or 4 multiplied by 1/2. So of usually is written with fractions to mean multiplication because it's the part of this part out of this whole. For division, the most common phrase is just quotient. So if I say quotient of 15 and 3, it's 15 divided by 3. And I can write that in two different ways. I can use the division symbol or I can use the fraction bar. Both mean the same thing. 15 divided by 3, 15 divided by 3 here as well. Order matters because 15 divided by 3 is very different than 3 divided by 15. Okay, so again, make sure you have these phrases and how to write them as an expression written down in your notes before we head on to some examples. Okay. So in this example, they want you to write an expression to represent 4 minus the product of 1 and a number x. I'm going to do this one with you since this is the very first one, and it seems like there's a lot going on here. So first, what I want to do is I want to underline all the important key phrases. I have minus, and then I also have product. So these two are going to tell me what kind of math I'm going to do. And then I want to also circle the important numbers. 4 is a number, 1 is a number, and the number x. So this is a variable, but it's still representing a number. And then I'm just going to use my phrases that I jotted down previously in my notes to now write a mathematical expression. So 4 minus the product of 1 and a number x. 4 minus tells you subtract, product tells you multiply. So 4 minus the product means to multiply, product of 1 and x. So 4 minus 1x. Product is multiply, but remember if I have a number and a variable next to it, I don't really need a multiplication sign next to it. I can just stick them right next to each other because this is a coefficient and this is a variable. Whenever I have a coefficient and a variable next to each other, I already know it's multiplication, so I don't need another multiplication symbol. I could either write 4 minus 1x, or I could get rid of that 1 because we already know an x by itself is 1x. So either one of these are correct. So again, 4 minus is subtract. The product says multiply, product of 1 and a number x. I don't need to put a multiplication sign in between there. I can just smush them together. That only is if you have a coefficient, a number, being multiplied by a variable, a letter. So let me put this in, 4 minus x, and that's correct. Go ahead now and try this one on your own before we try it together. Write an expression to represent the sum of 1 and the product of 4 and a number x. All right, again, I'm underlining my key phrases, sum and product. Sum tells me to add, product tells me multiply. I'm going to circle my numbers, 1, 4, and x. Okay, now I'm going to try and translate it. The sum, so that means two numbers are being added together, of 1, so 1 and the product of 4 and x. So the sum of 1, that's the first thing being added, and the product of 4 and x is also being added together. The sum of 1 and the product of 4 and x. Let's put that in. 1 plus 4x. Remember, product, if it's between two numbers that is one a number and a letter, you don't need the multiplication symbol between them. There we go. Let's do some more for extra practice. So go ahead and pause your video and try this one on your own first. 8 less than the product of 2 and a number x. Okay, so let's see, less than is one of the key phrases, and product. 8 is a number, 2, and x. So 8 less than, this was the tricky one, 8 less than. So I'm taking an amount and I'm trying to find 8 less than that. So that means that minus 8 is going to go at the end. I have an amount and I'm trying to find 8 less than that. I'm trying to take away 8 from that. 8 less than the product means to multiply, of 2 and x. One's a number and one's a letter, so I don't need a multiplication sign between them. I'm going to read it one more time to make sure it makes sense. 8 less than, so subtracting 8 from the product, multiplication of 2 and x. So I have 2x minus 8. This will be our last one. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. 9 more than the quotient of 2 and a number x. All right, so I have more than, which is addition. Quotient tells me division. And then the numbers are 9, 2, and x. So 9 more than, 9 added to it, the quotient means divide, quotient of 2 and x. And remember, for subtraction and division, the order matters. It's whatever order they give to you. Okay, so quotient of 2 and x, meaning 2 goes first, then x. I could write it like this, or I could write it like this. But then I'm going to want to put parentheses around the 2 divided by x to show that those two are together. So the best way is to use the fraction bar because it's just easier to write that. So again, 9 more than, 9 added to. Quotient means to divide, quotient of 2 and x, 2 divided by x. So let me put that in, 9 plus 2 divided by x. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions as you're working on these problems, and I'll be seeing you in class.